yet again, we have got another interesting person, and he's special in a lot of ways. One is because of his stature in his organization, in our fraternity. The other is because it's impossible to get hold of him. But we finally managed to do that today. And here we have Mr. YP Singh, Senior Vice President, Fenesta Window Systems. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much. And my apologies if you think that I was not available for this interview. And that's, I think, the perception a lot of people have. But I'm readily available 24/7 on my cell phone. So anybody can approach me for that reason.
Well, that's what he does best. Before I could even come and start shooting my questions to him and accuse him for various things, he's already put his hands up and already, admitted his kind of defeat there. But sir, before I start, I still would want to ask you why there is so much mystery around you and about you.
Oh, I'm hearing for the first time from you. Is there a mystery, first of all? And what is the mystery I am not aware of?
Well, there is a lot, and probably we'll try and unravel all of that during this course of interview right now. So, by education and IIT graduate, and if that was not enough, decided to do MTech also from IIT. Were you afraid to enter the real world?
Oh, that's a question I never thought of. But yes, possibly getting the post-graduation was another thought into it. So we have all heard about the story, the best days of your life is college days or the school days. And I got an opportunity, and therefore I thought of why not enjoy 2 more years of best life. So that was the reason behind my post-graduation.
Taking 2 more years advantage. That's probably what I understand right now. So engineering guys are supposed to be boring. How much that does hold true for you as well?
Yes, I'll tend to agree with you. We are not very big social animal. We're not like sales who can just continuously speak. But boring, I'll doubt on that. I think the tendency of human being is the same.
Well, I think probably you're just trying to be polite and being nice to yourself. I think probably the real answer should be coming from ma'am, and I think she would be in a better position to answer that for us. How boring you are or you're not. We will pass on this judgment end of the show. We will get to know how boring you are or you're not. But clearly, yes, your conversation mostly are technical. So I already tilting my judgment in one way right now, as of now.
Good, carry on. We'll see as it move forward.
Sure, we would. So you happen to go to IIT. Was that because, what was the reason? What was the drive? Was it the love for engineering, family pressure, or was it to impress your girlfriend at that time?
Oh, you have asked too many questions at one go. So if I put it in a nutshell, you asked 3 stories. So as far as parents are concerned, I had no pressure. In fact, we are 4 siblings, and the only objective for all of us was to be on your own, make your own life. His responsibility is limited to the education, and after that, you are on your own to take forward. So that was very clear with my father and mother. So there was absolutely no pressure. The second, you talked about interest in engineering. So that's a question. If I reflect back in 1980s, there was no such thought. 10th, 11th, 12th, we just had a herd mechanism. And for me, it also happened the same. I was no exception in that. So I just followed one of my classmates, Vivek Bhatt, who was topper in our college, the school, and he went for engineering. So natural choice was, if you get a good score, go into engineering. If you don't get a good score, go into arts or commerce. So luckily I got reasonably okay score and I went into math section, and therefore I went into engineering. That's a natural flow, you can see, which happened to me.
Well, you left the last one though. So no girlfriend out there whom you tried to impress at that time?
I left purposefully, and I think you got it. So, unfortunate. I was studying in a boys' school. There were no girls around, but unlucky man, you can say.
Unlucky man. Well, that's being very modest and being polite. That's probably how I look at it. Uh, well, then, did you manage to land up your dream job post IIT? Because that's one of those obvious things that should have happened to you.
Yes, that is what is expected, and that was expected rather. But life is all full of ups and downs and stories. In spite of having two degrees, one from University of Roorkee and then IIT Kanpur, the dream was to get into mechanical engineering and then to automobile section. And I could not succeed in both the attempts. So I had my, you can say, the experience of life in the first 6 years of engineering.
So basically, you experienced your first rejection, if I understand correctly, post IIT itself. That would have been very devastating for you.
You have fabulous words to explain and expand the entire issue. Fantastic. Yes, it was a rejection in a way. The second attempt after the post graduation, I did manage to get one. And this was from Tata Jamshedpur team. In fact, after selection process, I was on the top of the list. And they happened to ask me, what is your choice of location? So there was option of either Jamshedpur or Pune. And the team who was interviewing was from Jamshedpur. And I said, I'll prefer Pune if there is an option, but otherwise Jamshedpur is also fine with me. They recommended me for Jamshedpur then. Sorry, Pune. The next story comes, the Pune team arrives, I think 2-3 days later. And they called for my name and I was not available. So they did the interview rounds and they went back. Finally, there was a final interview call from both Tata Jamshedpur as well as Tata Pune. 13 of us were selected from Jamshedpur. Except me, everybody went to Jamshedpur. And I was recommended for Pune. I think 6 or 7 of us were there in Pune. All the 12 in Jamshedpur were taken. All the 6 to Pune were rejected. So I can only say it was my destiny.
It surely was. And if that was not enough, I understand from here you moved to a completely different sector altogether. And if that was not enough, you chose a very different role also in Gen irrigation. If you can just briefly tell us, how did that happen?
Jan Irrigation, I think that was their first campus recruitment from IIT Kanpur. And probably, I think 3 of us were selected from that batch. It was a tool room assignment. So it was about designing and manufacturing, especially non-conventional manufacturing, which is wire cut, EDM and stuff like that. I said, okay, at least it syncs with my education. So let me have that opportunity. One day after the entire formality was done, and I joined the exact area for working in Jan irrigation, I was said that, sorry, we don't have any vacancy now in tool room. And I said, so what I'm doing here? And they said, well, we have an opportunity. We are thinking of putting an R&D for PVC, plastics. Okay, so what I am supposed to do on that? No, that's the position you can take. You can set up the lab, you can do R&D, you can do this. You're an IT. I said, sir, are you crazy? I'm a mechanical engineer. Plastics means toothbrush and bucket, nothing beyond this. I don't know what is PVC, what is plastic. So then we have only one other option. And I said, what is that? Very eager to hear about. I thought now I can get my dream job. You can go back to your campus. I said, okay, if that is the scenario, let me go back and see. Give me some time, 2 weeks time. I'll go back and check out if everything is fine. Otherwise, I'll join. He said, happily okay. And then I went back to campus. One of my guru in the campus was Professor Prashant. He was an automobile engineer. He was professor in that mechanical engineering. And I narrated the entire story. This is what is happening. What should I do? And this is an advice, not advice, I would say. This is a learning which I would share with all my audience also. And he said a beautiful thing. Engineering teaches you way to solve a problem, not to fix your mind around engineering, around mechanical, chemical, electrical, civil. So that's not the way engineering are taught. And I said, I think he's making some sense. Even if he's not, what he's literally saying is, please go off. And I had no other option but to go back to Jen and say, okay, sir, now whatever you give, I'll take. So that's the story of landing into Jan irrigation.
Well, it seems that's how your introduction to PVC industry happened.
I think this change of field, I would say, brought a lot of understanding for me. So it was the next college which I was attending after the IIT Kanpur, and it was the real program in life. So I started my entire polymer engineering by reading books, and thanks to Dr. Vaidyanathan, who is no more, may his soul rest in peace. He was an excellent mentor and a guide. Excellent mentor. Everything I learned in PVC was from him. His mentorship was so good. He gave full hand to experiment out, to learn. And I think I stayed there for 3 years, and my entire graduation of polymer industry happened in these 3 years. So you can say those 3 years were my new college, but a practical and a real college. So I could correlate theories and the practical on the shop floor.
Sure, I can imagine. So 3 years spent in Jain irrigation, then heading into windsurf for another 4 years. 7 years spent between these two organizations. How would if I have to ask you to sum it up for me in 2 lines, this entire experience of these two organizations?
I think after the first job, when I moved to DGP Windsor at that point of time, and down the line, I started realizing the impact of destiny in one life. Having graduated in engineering with no background in plastics, 3 years complete process knowledge and plastic knowledge, and then back into DGP Windsor where they were making machines for these plastics. So the process knowledge and the engineering knowledge both actually merged here to give the best out of me. So I think that was something well designed by the God to flow in the path.
Well, I'm sure, and probably that's how the extension happened for you, and you turned into an entrepreneur. Post that, what was the reason behind it? You thought you were too smart for to be hired by anyone else and work under someone else?
This entrepreneurship actually came not because of my choice. It was my third failure of life. As you can say, third rejection. So probably in the course of this organization, they were restructuring and they wanted to close down some of these operational area. And the operational area they were closing was in which I was involved in the research and development. Naturally, I had no other choice but to move out of the organization. But luckily, I had good connects with the customers who had bought our machines and who were in discussions also. So I asked them if you would be interested in getting some consultancy or some solutioning for me, and they happily agreed to it. And I was quite happy to start my own consultancy. But the other story is very different. It happened.
Well, you turned into an entrepreneur, but well, who thought you didn't continue that also for a very, very long time? After a few years, you decided entrepreneurship wasn't your cup of tea. And who would have thought someone as smart as you will also have a tough time when it came to being an entrepreneur? Uh, what would be your biggest learning when it comes to being an entrepreneur?
Yes, there is a lot of learning in becoming an entrepreneur. So the first learning, I was not very good in commercials. Basically, I would say asking money. I would say it was my pride not to ask money. I would expect people to give what I deserve because I have delivered what I have supposed to deliver. So this happened for me for the first year. I did consultancy and took advance, and the 90% or 70% or 75% was to be executed after the job was done. Most of them, I'll not say everybody, but most of them, probably after getting the job, the 75% was forgotten. And I could write mails and I could call one or two times, then it was against my ego. I can't ask money.
So I'm assuming with that, probably your respect for entrepreneurs would have gone up drastically now.
Oh, immense. I salute all the entrepreneurs in this world for surviving and making this world a better place.
Well, thank you. That's good to know. So, sir, it seems from there, Fenesta happened to you. And this is how we know you the best. Does Fenesta also has a very interesting story in terms of how you landed up there?
As I started saying, life is full of stories. So every change has a story connected with it. So once we started this manufacturing, I was looking after the sales and the technical part of it. The sales, now I must appreciate all the sales guys. They tend to travel a lot. And I did only for 2 years, by the way. And in these 2 years, my better half realized that I am no more in the home. I'm always on the travel in a suitcase. And so she had my resume in my computer, and somehow she got a hold of some advertisement in the newspaper. So without my knowledge, she actually posted this to that company. I said, okay, I'll come for the interview. Are you providing me the to and fro? They said, yes, we'll provide you air flight. Fantastic. And I had a couple of inquiries, ongoing inquiries in Delhi, Kolkata. We had a lot of customers around. So I said, okay, this is a good chance to use the opportunity to get the flight money and do our business also. Since you are new in the business, you want to conserve as much as possible. And that's how I landed for the first interview. I took the money and went back. And I was happy now nothing is going to happen. I get a third call now that you have been selected. Would like to discuss the package and your joining dates. And that was something which was, I could not apprehend or I could not make out what to do. Because I was doing all this for the sake of one or two flights. Now it is costing me. And the business, Touchwood, was at that point reasonably good. Uh, so I said, okay, uh, I would like to visit the place where I have to work. And some salary negotiations was done. And finally, it came to commitment. So since it was committed, I had went for 2 interviews, I had seen the factory, and then I had no chance to step back. So I said, my other two partners, boss, I have to make this job work now because I have no choice. But we have enough kit in our hand to work for next 2 years. So why don't you guys continue the manufacturing and delivery and installation? I'll in the meantime go join, learn this business of profile, and probably come out in a year's time. That was the thought when I joined this organization. That 1 year commitment, I think today it is 17 years. And I can only tell, I'm not appreciating the organization per se, but I think after working with Jain, DGP, and DCM Shriram, I've just worked for 3 organizations so far. The people culture in this organization was something which was very touching to my heart. I never saw an organization who were so caring for their employees, for their family well-being, for their well-being, for their growth, for their learning. And probably that particular piece kept me connected for last 17 years in this organization. And I am hope for many more years.
Well, I'm sure that's why they call you the Fenesta guy. You've been there for way too long and from the beginning, uh, truly. And it seems Fenesta has done something right for you because that's how they've managed to keep hold of you, someone who otherwise took 3 years, 4 years, and then off he was. So they had to really do something special to keep hold of you and keep that energy going and probably in the right direction. So did it give you liberty to kind of focus and channelize your energy and pursue your other hobbies and passion as well?
I don't think they never stopped it, but that point of hobby was only to grow the business, somehow establish the business in the Indian market. So, and the family which I was talking about had the same hobby. In the last 17 years, I think I have been always continuously involved in some project or the other, which has kept me engaged to me, myself, as well as to the organization. And organization gives opportunity to those who are willing to take the responsibility. So I think that was the best part which happened to me.
Well, being proactive than reactive, probably that's the methodology that you have followed, and that's what worked for you, and that's what's kept you going. So IIT people and IIT alumni network is supposed to be very strong. People do hold on to their alumni network a lot. Does that hold true for you as well? Are you someone who's in touch with his friends from IIT and kind of keep engaging with them a lot?
Well, the answer is no and yes, both.
Okay.
Uh, to be honest, the first 22 years after the graduation, I did not happen to meet even one single colleague of my institute. And possibly once it has started, I met one, I think three guys, and then it has started unfolding the memories. And that's where it has started getting connected. So you can say up till 22 years, absolutely zero. And today, another, I think 24, 6 years now, and I'm hugely connected with people, hugely, almost on a weekly basis or even daily basis at times.
Nice. That's good to know. The work took precedence earlier and then things changed with time. उम्र के साथ थोड़ी सद्बुद्धि ज्यादा आई. Will that be right thing to say?
Yes, you can say so. And that is fact also. I think today I can very proudly say that those who have not been in touch with your school and college mate must do that, because it brings a different type of energy, a different type of knowledge for your life, which you will relish throughout.
Well, here we can look at you. The man changed from being a completely workaholic to enjoying his print shirts and living his life completely right now. So, well, there has to be some influence coming there clearly, and it can't only be just man for sure. So I'm assuming it has a lot to do which has happened since 2014, which you just mentioned right now.
Absolutely. So yes, I would say you talked about engineers are quite boring in the starting, and probably this 22 years was quite boring for me. But post 22, that is 2014, I would say I've started realizing what is the other part of the life which I was missing.
And here you are trying to cover up on all the lost time right now. So is there any tradition that you follow with your friends now, since you kind of now have bring that, connect back? Any tradition that you, all your friends follow?
Every time you get a call or anybody landing into Delhi from anywhere, inside the country or outside the country, is a party time. Even one guy comes over and here is for even one night, that evening is dedicated to us. So 8, 10, 15, 20, whatever can make up. Weekdays or weekends, we are always there to have the party with the guy. This COVID-19, which has happened in March, the lockdown, we got a boon for this. And the boon was we could actually connect through Zoom calls for parties now. So every Friday evening 8, 8:30 onwards till midnight, we have solid 4.5 hours party. Everybody brings his own snacks, own drinks, and is on the Zoom party. So that has been continuous for the last 8, 9 weeks now.
Now I know why my interview didn't happen on Friday night. You were busy party. Now I get that. Fair enough. But it's good to know that you're following such amazing tradition with your friends and making most of the time, which was lost earlier. But that's a fab thing that's happening there right now. So the perfectionist that you are you a tough boss at work, or you're more easygoing with your people? Uh, People call you a Hitler or a Gandhi at work? Like which is the right identity of yours?
Mm. Of course, not Gandhi. Uh, Having worked in R&D for quite good number of years, the eye for detail and perfection is what I always look at, and that creates a lot of problems in your life also, in my life per se. And I learned this through a hard way, but yes, I think there are some gurus in my life who could mold me into a much more better human being. So at one point of time, as you rightly said, some of my colleagues used to call me Hitler. Of course, whatever the reason, you can understand. I was very tough taskmaster. A task which is given and agreed, not only given and agreed. And if it is not done, it is going to be a bad day for the person, which actually changed gradually. So now it is no more that. I'm slightly more flexible to that and try to support as much as possible my colleagues.
So if I ask you, even though you have done such amazing body of work, but is there any criticism which has come your way, any feedback, could be good or bad, both ways, which came your way, which made you think twice in terms of what you were doing?
Criticism, not really. I would not say there was any criticism, but of course there were a lot of feedbacks, I would say, uh, both in the personal and the professional life, and it actually helps you in shaping yourself. And when actually two human beings are two different thoughts, when you have to be together, you have to align with each other's thought process. You cannot be driving your own thoughts with everybody. So this is something which I've learned a hard way, but it works beautifully, I would say.
Well, I'll give you one from my side, and let's hear you get to defend yourself and explain your point of view on that part. It could
Go
be
ahead,
criticism, it could be perception, whichever way you want to look at it. My question to you would be, why is YP Singh so conjuice in sharing his knowledge with fraternity at large? Why doesn't we see more of YP Singh at more fraternity oriented platforms where he can share his amazing knowledge which is there and his company's knowledge with everyone at large?
Karan. Conjuice. That's very kind of you. Well, I'll not defend that. In the last couple of years, yes, I have been slightly low on those areas of sharing. But prior to that, I was very much active. In fact, 2007, 8 onwards, when this association was formed, even getting 7 people was difficult. And I think we continued for 5, 6 years, struggling to get more and more people. And we were the team who were sitting for hours together, making the standards. I remember the first standard which was drafted was in 2009, which is still in discussion. And yes, I'm not confused that way. I'm ready to share, and I'll take this as a feedback for myself. And on this show, I can tell you very openly, You invite me to any forum, whatever knowledge I have, I'm ready to share for that. The only one thing which you have to keep in mind, weekends are blocked. Weekends, anything happens Friday evening till Sunday night, I don't have time because I'm pretty engaged on the weekend. I have multiple groups and I do not have time anything on that.
Well, the disclaimer coming in very categorically. No weekends, but other than that, I'm good to go. It's great to know that, sir, your services will be more available going forward, hopefully. And I understand, obviously, the time becomes a constraint for most of the people. But in small capacities, whenever you can play a role, you can definitely develop a lot of minds out there and channelize those energy in the right direction. So that can only be a good news for the industry and nothing else. That's all I'll say.
I'll be more and more delighted to actually help the industry the way it is possible. And I'm always available 24 by 7. Shoot me a mail or call me up. Possibly, I'll try not to disappoint.
Well, you all can thank me later for this. Later, for sure. Uh, so, what I'm seeing repeatedly right now is the happy space which you are in right now. The content part. It seems there is a sense of security also, and comfort, and you're happy in that space and enjoying the movement now a lot more. All of this again is it going to go back and back again to 2014 and the defining year it has been, and the calming effect it has brought on you?
Hmm, I think it will happen to everybody. It has happened to me as well. So when you actually hit certain area and you know now there is nothing beyond this where you can go, you start exploring what next. You start exploring probably from outside to inside. And this is when I started my first set of hobbies outside the job. And I started getting into the first set of learning drums for the first time in my life. Of course, there's a different story altogether, and I think that would be interesting to many of you. So I went to nearby music institute, and of course, my look doesn't change much; it's more or less the same. And I asked the gentleman sitting in that room, and you have drum classes also? He said yes. And he asked me, I said, so what are your charges, timings, and everything? So he gave all this information, and he then finally asked, "So, sir, how big is your kid who wants to learn this?" And I looked at him. No, it's not for the kid; it's for me. He was zapped. So yes, yes, yes. Okay, you can also learn. So probably I was one of the youngest student in his classroom. That's where I started learning drum. So that was the first hobby, and then I got into cycling somehow. And the first cycle was my son's cycle. And I tried to do 1 kilometer and I was absolutely tired. And I said, 1 kilometer cycling, fantastic. Then I came back, uh, started looking at some of these decathlon and other stuff to figure out the school cycles and coaches and things like that. That's where I got added into a group of cyclists. And then I realized people are doing 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers, 60 kilometers, 100 kilometers. And the timing was at 4:30 in the morning. I said, what? I normally sleep at 1 o'clock. How do you expect me to get at 4:30? So it went into 6 months, 1 year, you can say like this. And then I finally got into first drums and then I started, okay, let's try cycling. So I think in 2017, that was the group when I was very active in cycling also. And the trip was from Manali to Leh, 470 kilometers, 16,000 feet, where you cannot breathe and you were to do cycling. Of course, I had all the backups. Car was there, everything was there. And I was very afraid also. I was, of course, again the youngest in that group, and the others were half my age. And it was fabulous experience. That was a second. Third thing which I started working into is, again, that's my wife's initiative. It's about exploring Gurgaon into the Aravalli Hills. And each of this group is nothing less than 50 to 100 people. So Vatika, where I stay, here also I have a group of 30, 40 people. I have cycling friends who are another 30, 40. College is another 300. Schools, another 50, 60. MTechs, another 20. So there are so many groups now that it sometimes becomes very difficult for me to adjust my weekend for all these people when the call is there. So you can imagine how busy the weekends are.
Well, obviously, they're bound to be when you're doing so much and so much. But it's phenomenal what you're doing, phenomenal in terms of the cycling story and then the drum bit. Well, who would have thought? And as I said, all of you out there, I mean, well, he may seem that he's only always talking about the technical part and the PVC and the composition and so on and so forth. Yeah, next time, try and talk to him about some rock bands, some cycling expedition of yours, or probably stories around it, and you may just see another side of his, and probably a much happier side, I can assure you. वो कहते हैं ना चेहरे पे ग्लो आ जाता है तो वो शायद वापस दिख जाएगा.
So possibly now you know what is the reason for this happiness. So this is something that comes from inside.
It clearly is happening. And कोई उम्र का तकादा करने की जरूरत अभी फिलहाल तो लग नहीं रही है क्योंकि अभी तो जवान है for sure. अभी तो शुरुआत हुई है. That's how people say it. It seems that in that case, all of this, what you've been doing, lockdown would have done great things to you. You would have enjoyed your time in every way possible, enjoying your Zoom parties, at times doing your walks, probably within the colony if they permitted, and other things. I mean, you would have had a good time.
Society walks definitely is no. So another Zoom party, not Zoom party, it's a Zoom exercise. So morning starts with Zoom exercise. We have another group which is around 10 people. So morning 6:30, 6:40 onwards till 8 o'clock we have 1 hour, 15 minutes we have exercise. And after that we have 15, 20 minutes of chat. That's most important thing. And that happens on Monday to Saturday. But I skip the Saturday and Sunday part because I don't have time for even that. So Monday to Friday is this Zoom exercise in the morning. At 10 o'clock to evening, 8 o'clock is fully packed with meetings with various set of team members. So it has been purely packed session. In fact, I never realized there was anything like COVID-19, except that you can't go out on your own wish. Otherwise, office timings are so good, your full day is gone. And by the time you realize Friday is already on.
Well, it seems you're living every weekend, living for weekends more than anything else. But the people who know you at work also know you how much you put in the work there as well, and the passion which you have for the organization and for the PVC industry also at the same time. The last question, if I would want to ask you, I think I already know the answer, but still I would want to ask you. Yeah.
I've had a proposal for you.
Yeah.
So I think in the UPVC windows and doors industry, let us have another Zoom party for all the people. I think people have been talking only about business, webinars and knowledge and connecting. I think it's time to take a break. So maybe you can host another Zoom party with all the champions in the industry. And possibly that could be another show altogether.
Well, you have given me some great idea there already, and it's already coming to my head. Well, I'll work on it, and I trust you. I'll not disappoint you there for sure. So my last one, as I was asking you, I think I already know the answer, but if I may have to ask you, what will be that one thing which probably will take precedence for YP Singh over work any day?
Friends and family. Of course, no doubt about it.
Well, I don't think that was the very difficult one to answer for him. Just he wears his heart on his sleeves. He wears the passion and the love that he has for his friends and the things that he's doing. And he clearly can give a run of a buck to all of us right now, who are half of his age almost. Um, I mean, look at you. You look living a complete hippie life, doing all the things probably we all die to do and probably impress people around us. And you doing that with finesse for sure. Clearly, no doubt on that part.
Thank you so much, Karan, for saying those words. I think everybody, I think the young generation which we are looking at is much more knowledgeable, much more mature. Possibly what took 40 years for me, you guys are actually able to do it in 25, 30 years. So that's phenomenal things you guys are doing. I must appreciate the younger generation for their zeal, energy, and the maturity to think through. Even this idea what you're presenting right now, knowing the other side of human being is just remarkable. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for that. And it's experiences like these, hearing stories like yours, which probably help people like me to go further and keep motivating us to probably keep doing better what we're doing right now. With that, sir, I'd like to thank you so much for being on the show. It's been absolutely an honor, and it's been great knowing you uh, a little more at length, a little more at personal level. And yeah, and I hopefully probably everyone would have gotten a lot more to take away from here.
Thank you so much, Karan, for this initiative and having me on this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And for all of people out there, well, what should I say? Um, he's like an aging wine right now. That's all that I can think of, probably. Just getting better and better with each passing day. Uh, Not just at work, but probably as a human, as an individual. And it's just heartening to see someone living life to the fullest right now. And probably that will be my biggest takeaway in this entire conversation. Thank you. Khuda Hafiz. Alvida till the time we have yet another interesting story to talk about. Take care. Good night. Thank you.